Good morning. Could I get a show of hands of members that are on appropriations? Because we're going to have a quorum probably from the committee as a whole to vote on this, it looks like. Pat, you're not on the whole committee? Yeah, we may need y'all to help us because I think it's early Monday after crossover day, and I think some of our members may be having a little bit of trouble getting here. So your vote will count. Just anywhere close down there will be fine, and we'll get you a tracking sheet. Barbara, have you got one? Yeah. And if any of the other members come in, we might get y'all just to share with them or something so we can do that. Good morning. Great to see all of you here. We will begin looking at the Human Resources 2014 budget and see if we can vote this out of our committee today. Let's start with behavioral health and developmental disabilities to start to look at the changes. So line 15.2.1, this is a one-time change to affect the Medicaid upper limit payment and cost settlement revenue. The reduction is just one time, as I said, and cannot be achieved in future years. Then if you will look, there's several changes that I'm going to put all together to talk about. 15.4.8 in adult mental health, 15.6.1 in child and adolescent addictive diseases, 15.7.2 in child and adolescent developmental disabilities, and 15.9.3 in child and adolescent developmental health, and one more, 15.10.2 in departmental administration. These are all housekeeping FMAP adjustments. And then if I could direct you back to 15.7.1, that is to increase funding for the Marcus Autism Center. These funds with the matching federal funds will conservatively treat at least 200 children with autism, and the center leads the world in autism research and treats children from all over our states. They have a one-to-one federal match. And then 15.10.3, this is departmental administration, which states that by January 1, 2014, the department shall provide a report to the Georgia General Assembly with an actionable plan to equalize grant and aid funding for core behavioral health services statewide. There's a particularly large disparity in funding that goes to Northwest Georgia. So this we'll take a look at that and see what we can do to bring those services more up to the same kind of dollars. Are there any questions on the behavioral health component of the budget from the committee? Okay. If not, we'll move on then to Human Services, Section 27. The first item I'd like to address your attention to is 27.9.5, transfer to the Governor's Office of Children and Families for the State Administration of Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Services to allow for maximum grant funds to be distributed to shelters. This is an agreed-upon MOU that already exists and has been transferred. The next item will be 27.9.6, which is a continuing reduction in the funds for Liberty County DFAC's office rent of $50,000. The next begins to address the areas that are most important, I think, as we move forward in this budget, which are elder services and home care services. 27.10.1, to eliminate 17 service worker positions. The House is going to take a stand to say no to this and to restore those 17 positions. The next is 27.11.1, which will also be a stance to say no and to restore the funds for contractual services for Alzheimer and respite services. The next is 27.17.3, which will increase the funds to reflect a 3% rate adjustment among all out-of-home care providers. This particularly addresses the 2,000 plus foster children who cannot reside in a traditional home setting. There are 200 providers that have already closed, and the department has requested additional funds to deal with the massive increase in utilization. And then to lighten up the morning just a little bit, because we have to do that at times, it's important. If you would look at 27.28.3, we're going to transfer funds. Now, don't everybody get all ethically inclined on this. It's called Happy Hour Services, Inc. is the name. It has nothing to do with legislators going out at night, okay? From authorization and invoice contracts to community rehabilitation provider contracts. So we will sort of make right. The agency is okay with this language. Are there any questions on this component of the budget? If not, we'll move on to the Department of Labor. I'll ask you to look at item 31.3.1, and this is basically an agreement that we will go with. There are no other changes to the budget at all. We are agreeing to using existing state funds to pay the interest payment due in 2013, September 2013. Okay, any questions on the Department of Labor? Let's move to Veterans Services then. And on your document, there are two items to look at. The first is 48.3.2. This is a yes, to reflect the updated projected fee revenue to increase patient services and census. So you will see the dollars are adjusted there. This is for the Veterans Nursing Home in Augusta. The same holds true of item 48.4.2 for the nursing home in Milledgeville, to update it according to the projected fee revenue and to increase patient services and the census, to increase those who are there and who are actually obtaining services. Are there any questions on Veterans Services? If not, then we will move to the final area, which is the Governor's Office of Children and Families. The section 26.5 holds several changes. Beginning with 26.5.1 and 5.2, the House has added a no to the language, reflecting an executive order creating the juvenile court incentive grant funding in GOSEF and the related $5 million that will be attached to these grants. The House believes that the most appropriate place for the grants to be administered is through the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. Then if you will look at 26.5.5, this is to reduce the funds to reflect the completion of the final year of funding for community-based grants. These grants have been on a 3-year cycle, and some grantees completed their last year of funding in 2013. So you will see that reflected in our budget. The next is 26.5.7, to continue the use of the $240,000 for the Child Advocacy Centers of Georgia to ensure maximum federal grant funding, quality assurance, and center support. The House felt it was necessary to continue this contract to ensure that we can pull down as much federal money as possible while providing adequate oversight and support for our very important child advocacy centers. The next item, that was a wrong number, wasn't it? 26.5. Give me just a minute here. The 240.
No,
is that?
It's right here. So it was right.
Right. So it was actually 0.6, I believe, instead of 0.7. I'm sorry. So next we will move to 26.5.7. GOSEF shall present a plan to the General Assembly by July 1, 2013 to convert grants issued to an updating funding formula that will be phased in incrementally over a 3-year period. The legislature, the House particularly, believes that GOSEF should study the effects of the new formula, the way that it will affect our shelters before the changes are implemented. We also hope that this study will promote more transparency. Then I will direct you to 26.5.8. No grants through this office shall be financially penalized for administrative errors without a 30-day grace period and adequate communication of such error. This is to avoid cutting funding to shelters over a missed signature, a missing page, items such as that are oversights. Many shelters have expressed concern over this particular issue. And then in 26.5.9, .8, we're adjusting some numbers here, I believe, that no grants distributed through this office shall be financially, did I just do that one? I just did that one. I'm sorry, our numbers are just a little out of sync, so forgive me for that. Then is this correct? The final measure, 26.5.9, to transfer funds from the Department of Human Services Administration program for the State Administration of Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Services to allow for maximum grant funds to be distributed to the shelters. Are there any questions? And I apologize for it being just slightly confusing there on those numbers. The facts are very important, so if there are any questions to explain any of that, this is the time. Yeah. This would be the appropriate time. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to recommend that you pass recommendation on the tractor sheet on HB 106 that we just discussed.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by like sign? Thank you. The measure is passed. We are dismissed.
Press the top left corner. No, on the screen.